Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of The Left Wing. I am TJ Whitehead, Power is Taken Not Given, joined as always by John Cooper of Counterpoint Politics, and special guest today, Tim from the New Evangelicals. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm great, man. I'm a Philly person. The Eagles are kicking ass, and it's cold, which I love. We needed some winter on the East Coast, and I'm happy to have it.
Oh, God, it's always good to have another person from Philadelphia on the show.
Can't have enough of us, TJ.
I agree, John, 100%.
Or just Pennsylvania in general. I feel like every other guest we have is from Pennsylvania. We had Labor John, we got Natalie, now we got Tim, now we got a bunch of Pennsylvanians just running the place. William Penn would be very proud to see this.
Technically, I'm on the Jersey side of the Philadelphia suburbs, but I'm like 15 minutes. So it's a Philly suburb, even though it's New Jersey, but technically it is Jersey.
Hey, you hear that, John? He's from a shittier state.
Oh, now we're gonna fight. Okay, I'm taking the shirt off.
It's called the Garden State, but I mean, no one thinks about that when they think of New Jersey. You think of Atlantic City, you think of crime, you think of
crime.
You think of organized crime. I think of organized crime.
Oh no, that part's true. Yeah. That part's true. No, 100%. We had to reform garbage dumpster permits for contractors because the mob was so bad in the waste management area that you have to get special permits.
I don't believe
it. True story. But TJ, I have to ask you a question. Where are you from?
I'm from North Carolina. Well,
okay.
All right. Well, listen, I'm an Army brat. I was born in North Carolina. We were in Europe for like 5 or 6 years, and then we go to Missouri. So like Missouri, I guess, is where like I graduated from high school and everything. So, but that's a real shitty state too. So you can't.
Where do you live now? Where do you live now?
Indiana.
Okay, so you don't pump your own gas, right?
I do.
Oh, I'm sorry.
New Jersey,
Oregon. In New Jersey, we don't pump our own gas. People do it for us. So another check. Also, how good's your pizza? Is it shit? Oh, it is. That's right. In New Jersey, it's top tier. So I will defend New Jersey till the day I die.
I will never shit talk New Jersey's pizza or the fact that you have your gas pumping servants there. That's always cool. So yeah, all right.
I'm going to say something, TJ, right now that's going to sound like sacrilege, but it is very true.
Let's go.
One of my spiciest takes. South Jersey has consistently better cheesesteaks than Philadelphia does.
Oh my God! Wow!
You don't fuck with donkeys, man.
I live in Philly. I lived in South Jersey too. I consider myself Philadelphian. I grew up in the suburbs here. I had consistently better cheesesteaks. The top tier still in Philly, but just across the board, you go to any random places in South Jersey, probably going to have better cheesesteaks.
And we also have Gitanos. Gitanos, I mean, they went viral for the size of their cheesesteaks. But anyway, no.
God, all you guys from the East Coast, is always like, did you ever stop by Spatafore's or something? You always naming like these random fucking Italian places people eat at. Like, all right, whatever. But with New Jersey, did you ever watch Boardwalk Empire? Did you ever see that show?
No,
yes.
No, I did not.
You saw it? It's a great show. I think of that they're in Atlantic City, I'm pretty sure, with Boardwalk Empire. And real quick, before we get to the actual topic here, you said that you enjoyed the cold. What the fuck is wrong with you? What are you talking about? What do you mean you enjoy? I'm at the age now that I'm done with winter. I can just go without another winter for the rest of my life. I'm perfectly fine. It's just what's the big deal?
Well, the big deal is that you don't sweat through your clothes. Like your balls don't sweat when you walk down the street, TJ. You know, when you get cold, you just put more layers on top of you. In New Jersey, it gets very humid in the summer to the point where you walk out, you just start sweating. I like waking up. Now, granted, you get a little cold. You go to the gym, get warmed up. You hit that crisp, fresh, clears out your nostrils kind of air. Absolutely. The good part about New Jersey is that you have all 4 seasons. So it's not here forever. It's going to go away, but I'm going to enjoy it while I got it.
John, where do you stand on this? Winter, yes, yay or nay?
I need 4 seasons, but in general, I prefer the warm to the cold. Because here's the thing, Tim: you can put as many layers on as you want, but you're going to have skin exposed somewhere. Your hands, your face, your nose, your ears—they all get freezing. My feet, poor circulation, get freezing all the time. I can't stand the cold. I'm not like done with it yet, but once Christmas is over, it's just like, what's the point? Then it's just like 3 months more of cold. That's just like, why am I even doing this?
Yeah, it snowed twice so far in Indianapolis, and it snowed once, like right before Thanksgiving, and then it snowed this weekend. And I don't know, now that snow days are cool when you're a child, but when you're an adult, snow days just are not worth. I mean, you don't even have snow days anymore because everybody can work or go to school remotely now. You don't even get the actual day off, and then it looks pretty for about 2 hours, and then it gets the snow plow, and you got these giant piles of brown sludge in the parking lots that stay there for a week and a half. No, and driving gets more difficult. It's just you breathe in and it hurts your lungs. When I got here from North Carolina, I got here in February, and I remember going outside. It was 4 degrees outside, and I stepped outside and I inhaled and it hurts. And I said, you know what? F this. I don't want to go through another winter again. I can just go without it. But to each their own. I get it.
All right, TJ. So I'm thinking, I know that we all want to talk about this CEO getting blasted away, but I feel like we should save that. I feel like that should be a closing topic.
Damn. All right, fine. John, taking away my fun. Okay, what do you want to start with then?
And I feel like it would be best to start with the topic that Tim wanted to discuss, because I think it'll provide a nice little intro, especially because Tim isn't necessarily, I don't know, like a lot of our other guests who have been in the left-wing content creator world and came here that way. Tim has a little bit of a different story.
Okay.
Tim, how about you introduce yourself to our audience, and then we can jump into the conversation that you wanted to have.
Okay. Yeah, well, my name is Tim. I created a digital-first nonprofit called the New Evangelicals. My story is I grew up a conservative Christian evangelical. I was homeschooled for 9 years. I graduated out of a small private school, top 5 in my class out of 6. So, that's just how I grew up in New Jersey, by the way. Like there are fundamentalist bubbles for sure in New Jersey. And I grew up inside of one of them. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole subculture. I mean, TJ, you and I were talking about kind of our similar upbringing. There's a whole subculture of evangelical speak and language, but just for sake of this conversation, I grew up very much what would put me on the path towards what we might call is now Christian nationalism, the belief that, America is God's chosen country, and we as Christians have an obligation to protect America from, political enemies, and we have to pray at the flagpole and save our friends from burning in hell forever, yada, yada, yada. And ultimately, as I got older and thought through more of the faith I was given about, the theological paradigms or even the political outcomes, I started realizing that a lot of these things didn't actually line up with the teachings of Jesus. I was like, I don't understand, guys. Heal the sick, and you don't want universal healthcare for people. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, it seems like it's a pretty clear shoo-in my opinion, of following Jesus. Why would we not want our neighbor to have access to affordable healthcare? So that's one example, right? Or even things like, why are we treating queer people so poorly? And I want to be very honest with your audience. For a long time, I was not necessarily queer affirming. I believe that the Bible was clear, and I couldn't tolerate that kind of thing. But I even realized, even then, like, well, people who live differently than me have a right in America to live differently than me, regardless of my beliefs, right? So I just had all these kind of moments of like, things aren't really adding up. And then when Trump came on the scene, and I watched a lot of the faith leaders that raised me in a very strict sexual ethic, essentially that said, listen, in order to be God's chosen vessel, you don't touch yourself or anyone else until you're married. That's the rule. And I was like, okay, can do, right? Or at least I thought I could do it. You really can't. It's impossible. But it's truth, right? And so when I got involved there, and I see Trump come on the scene, and the same people who taught me that are like, no, guys, like, yeah, maybe he says grab him by the you-know-what, but I mean, God can use anyone. I'm like, whoa, guys, I couldn't serve on like the worship team band as a volunteer if I was caught with my girlfriend alone just hanging out. But you're telling me the guy who's grabbing women, that guy is chosen by God to lead the country? It was one of those moments of like, something is really wrong. So long story short, I started the New Evangelicals out of my attic on via Instagram, just asking questions in 2020. Hey, anyone concerned about how we're responding to COVID as Christians, or Black Lives Matter, for another big moment for me? I'm like, I don't understand. How are we on the wrong side of these issues? Turns out there were a lot of people asking the same questions. Our account kind of blew up. We became a nonprofit. And now I do the work of helping people find a better path forward rooted in a Christian tradition, if they so choose to keep it, that's rooted in liberation for their neighbor, love, inclusivity, justice for all their neighbor, ecological justice, etc. So that's what we do now.
That's really cool, man. I wrote down a lot of notes from what you just said here. And the first thing I wrote down, you said that you graduated top 5 out of your school. This is high school. 5 out of 6. That's interesting. It's very similar to me. I graduated top 3 out of 4 in my graduating class. And so, yeah. And so
good for you, TJ.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know, we try our best here. And did you go to a Christian college by any chance?
I did some college at a Christian college, but I never got my degree.
Okay. All right. We got ourselves a quitter. Okay.
Yeah,
and so when you were talking about did you guys do the pledge to the Christian flag when you were in school?
I can recite it right now, dude, by memory.
I pledge allegiance to the Christian flag
and to the kingdom for whose savior it stands. One king, the whole thing, dude.
Yeah, one Savior crucified, risen, coming again for life.
Yeah.
So, John, all right, so we should tell everybody about this. All right, so the Christian flag pledge was something you did every morning alongside the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag and also the pledge to the Bible.
That's right, the Bible. That's right.
And so I'll talk about the Bible pledge pretty soon, but I wanted to pull up a picture of the Christian flag. Yeah, the Christian flag is interesting. This is a shitty picture right here, but the Christian flag is interesting to me because it is made to resemble the American flag. Like, it's literally made to resemble the American flag. It would be like a facsimile of it. This isn't a great picture, but it can give the idea of what we're talking about. And as you can see, it's got the same dimensions. Like, it's got the field where the stripes would be, and it's got the blue block there. And that red mark you see is a cross, which is right in the middle. And so every morning you would get up and you would say, I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America. Then you turn to the Christian flag, and with the same fucking cadence, you would say, I pledge allegiance to the Christian flag and to the Savior to whose kingdom it stands. After that, you would pledge allegiance to the actual Bible. And you would say, I pledge allegiance to the Bible, God's holy word.
Yes, I'm making a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I will hide its word in my heart that I might not sin against God.
Exactly. That's exactly. We did this every morning. And so, like, people who didn't grow up this way, they don't understand. You are trained from childhood to view the Bible and the United States of America and Christianity in general as one and the same. That there is no separation, certainly no separation of church and state, but you want a convergence of your specific Christian, your specific brand of Christianity to the United States in general. So I was glad you brought that up, man.
Well, and just to be very clear, this is not, because the term Christian is such a big term. It's 2,000 years of history. We're not talking about just the term Christianity. It really is a conservative Christian identity rooted ultimately in white supremacy. I mean, if you look through the history in America of how we got here, that's what it's rooted in. Now, they don't say that, and many people even in it don't know where it comes from, but you're pulling from the Jerry Falwell religious moral majority ethic that leads to this particular outpouring or enmeshment of Christian thought.
Yeah.
It's funny because I didn't grow up evangelical, but I grew up Catholic. And I remember I was watching Midnight Mass. There's a great show. Wonderful. If you're into like theological debate. Excellent show. But I was watching it with my girlfriend. It's a Catholic show. And they're doing the prayers. And I just start ratting them off with them. And she looked at me like I grew a third head. She was like, how the fuck do you know what they're saying? And I'm like, because I did this every Sunday. It was the same thing. Same as you guys just did it. But I will say to anyone who's listening to these guys talk about the pledge to the Christian flag and the Bible and being like, wow, that's weird. Who would make kids do that? Tell me how it's different than the American flag, the pledge to the American flag. It is. I distinctly remember we were learning about the Holocaust and we're learning about the Hitler Youth in like middle school. And it was immediate to me. It was like light bulb, like, wait a second. That's what we do. There's no difference between their pledge to Hitler and our pledge to the American flag. It's the same exact thing. And once I realized that, it was very much an awakening moment for me that made me question a lot of things. But most Americans never have that question. Most Americans can view what you guys did as like weird, but they don't see how the same shit has impacted their own lives.
100%.
Yeah, the pledge to the flag. I have two things to say about that. First is I do think it's funny that when you do the pledge, you pledge to the flag first and the country second. I always thought that was odd that you actually pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic, not in that order. It seems odd. And the second thing is, I remember when the light bulb moment for the flag did hit me until I was much older, John. So I was a little slower than John here, but I
graduated top 150 in my class.
Look at that. Welcome to C Student Politics, everybody. We're here telling you all. And so when I was in college, I was a sophomore in college, and I was doing my sophomore field work at a high school in the local area. And I was helping out with one of the teachers there, and I was kind of new. And the teacher told me, all right, so this is first period in this class, and there's a kid here, and I think his name was Kevin. It's like a junior high school class, or junior, I'm sorry, like 11th grade. And he says, just so you know, we're doing the flag. Kevin is not going to stand for the pledge. He just never does it. I was like, oh, okay. And so the pledge happened. The kid just sat there. Everybody else stood and did the whole recitation, didn't say a word, like just crossed his legs and just sat there. And afterward, I went over to him, I was like, hey, Kevin, I was like, so what's up with the no stand for the pledge thing? He goes, yeah, I just don't know why. Like, why should I? I don't want to do it. And I said, well, it's just what you do. And as the words left my mouth, I said, what the? I had never felt so embarrassed. I said, that is not a thinking man's answer. Why did I say that? And as time has gone on, I realized it is absolute an indoctrination tool for no good reason at all, other than to teach. You talk about how that Christian evangelicalism in the United States is rooted in white supremacy. This is rooted, like the pledge itself is rooted in American supremacy. We call it American exceptionalism. What we actually mean is American supremacy. America is not only good, and not only should children pledge their fealty to the state, but it is also crafted and granted to us by capital G God and operates under his auspices. So don't question it. We of course it makes sense that everybody wanted to go to war every time the United States goes to war because no one really thought about it. But it's a good point, John, how everyone sees how the pledge to the Christian flag or the pledge to the Bible is indoctrination. But it starts a lot earlier. It starts with the regular American flag that no one blinks an eye at.
It is really, once you start seeing the combination of religious and nationalist dogma, like you can't stop unseeing it because it uses a lot of the same tricks to get you to believe in something that's not actually in your best interest. And, as I'm sure Tim will tell you, as, someone who is still religious, but has unpacked a lot of that extra stuff, the teachings of Jesus don't really line up with a lot of the teachings of a lot of the churches in this country. And it is always odd to me when I see devoutly religious people stand like with their full chest supporting someone like Donald Trump, who is the antithesis of everything Jesus ever taught. And I say, I grew up religious. I'm not religious anymore, but I always say Jesus, with the exception of him being the divine son of a deity, everything else he said is pretty damn cool to me. And like, if you follow his teachings, you're gonna probably be, a generally good person and a well-rounded member of society. But I know that Tim, you wanted to specifically discuss how Christian nationalism, TJ. Every time I say Christian nationalism now, I say Christian nationism in my head. I can't undo it.
From that guy.
That one guy. He's like, this isn't
Vaught.
Christian national. Who was it, TJ?
Vaught.
Vaught.
His last, Vaught. I can't remember his first name,
Russell?
but his last name.
The Project 2025 guy?
Yeah.
Russell Vaught.
Russell Vaught.
He called it Christian nationism. And he's it's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
But you wanted to talk about how the media, treats Christian nationalism. I was interested to hear your take on it because I wasn't entirely sure exactly where you want to take.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure. I could definitely give my general thesis. So, obviously most of my work deals in the religious sector, both in the progressive camp now, obviously in the affirming position, and also helping people unpack what's going on in, it's not even, conservative Christianity, sure, but more importantly, this right-wing, Christian nationalist kind of sect of what is an amalgamation of some trad Catholic belief along with a lot of evangelicalism, etc. And one of my big frustrations leading up to the election was that a lot of secular media sources, by the way, both mainstream and I would also argue some left-wing spaces as well, didn't really seem to either understand the religious side of Christian nationalism and the culture that it came from, or just wouldn't want to talk about it because they were afraid. I'm mostly now critiquing mainstream media. They were afraid that maybe they would, turn the reviewers off. And so what ultimately what's happening is like people, there's so much happening behind the scenes with the Trump administration in the theological world that goes underneath the surface that most people don't know about. There are names like Doug Wilson, William Wolfe, Joshua Hames, Joel Webbin, Sean Foyt, Rob McCoy. I can go down and give you names that most people are going to be like, who are those? They are the reason why Trump got elected. If you don't know who Paula White is, you don't understand how Trump got elected. If you don't know who these people are, if you never heard of the term New Apostolic Reformation, you do not understand what got Trump elected. And so it's been frustrating for me for the past couple of years now. And really, this work really kicked off. I started TNE as an Instagram account December 2020. The insurrection happened January 6th of 2021. I saw that same Christian flag, TJ, I'm sure you did too, going through the Senate chambers. I'm like, holy shit, what is that doing there? And so that got me really deeply embedded in thinking, what is motivating this stuff? And so, that's been a huge frustration of mine, is like, we're not talking nearly enough about the theological underpinnings and the religious zealotry that animates a Trump administration campaign, language, etc. I definitely think, don't misunderstand, Trump as a person is very dangerous, period. He has no integrity, no moral compass for sure. The people he's trying to put into positions of power, cabinet picks, for example, like Pete Hegseth, who has literal crusader tattoos on him, way more dangerous than Trump, because Trump has no moral foundation.
Right.
Pete has a moral compass, my friends, and it's drawing from crusader language. This is someone who goes to a church underneath an umbrella by someone named Doug Wilson. I don't want to even get into this dude, but I'll just tell you, he wrote a book with a white supremacist, essentially saying that slavery in America was actually mutually beneficial. He's someone who says, and I'm going to, a little graphic, but, and I quote, sex is not an egalitarian pleasuring party. This is words from this guy, Doug Wilson. Pete is part of that guy's church network. They believe, he's on a podcast called Red Pill Reformation. These people believe in taking over the country because of the religious zealotry. And the fact that mainstream media sources are not blowing that shit up, they're talking about Pete being controversial because he's a Fox News host and his mom doesn't like him. Sure. But the religious zealotry is way more important in this conversation, and people don't know that. So it's been very frustrating, watching a lot of people, either well-intentioned or not, just not talk about the underlying cause behind what has brought us to this moment in American history. And unfortunately, it is white Christian nationalism. That's what it is, whether we like it or not.
God, listen, man, look, you were speaking my language. I have said for, honestly, 8 years now, that the success of Donald Trump can be laid at the feet of the exuberant, consistent, enthusiastic support of white Christian evangelicals. They supported Donald Trump at 81% in 2016, 84% in 2020, and 81% again in 2024. So when Trump was elected, I'm sure you saw some of this, Tim, that people who you still knew or still kept in touch with who were part of this movement or whatever, a lot of them would say, oh, well, we're not voting for a pastor. We're voting for a president. I'm reluctantly voting for Donald Trump. I don't like the stuff he says, but I think he's better than Clinton. Yep. And then you saw the numbers. 81%. There is nothing tepid about 81% and consistent 8 out of 10. They love him. They love who he is because he is who they are. That's what I exactly said about them, is that the petulance, the spite, the rage, the bigotry, the hate. And this is the thing that really struck me thinking back on this movement, is that because I couldn't agree more that mainstream media, I want to fault them for not taking the religious zealotry seriously. I don't think they know. I don't think they can see it. Talking to people who didn't grow up the way we do, we sound like maniacs. Like,
I know. We sound like QAnon. Like, wait, are you sure? I'm like, dude, I sang I'm a child in the Lord's army as a child. I mean, these are songs that you're taught at like age 6, that you're in the Lord's army. This is not, it's a real thing.
Yeah, that I will never march in the infantry. I may never ride in the cavalry. I may never shoot the artillery, but I'm in the Lord's army.
Yes,
Onward,
sir.
Christian soldiers. Put on the whole armor of God. Like, this is a militant cult, man. And people don't understand how dangerous it is. They see the after effects. They see like the Donald Trumps and the Pete Hegses. They see these people out there, but the problem is the voters. Okay. The problem is the actual cult that they're involved in. And it's not going to, people don't, because they like to say, oh, well, you know, these people, they don't really believe what the Bible says or what they say the Bible says. They're just twisting it. No, listen, they are zealots, man. They believe this, their particular doctrine, their particular teaching of Christianity that really just focuses on, like you said, white culture in mid 20th century United States. That's what it is. That's what it really focuses down to. It's not anything about some Near Eastern rabbi, carpenter from there 2000
over in Palestine. No, definitely not. No.
Yeah, it doesn't focus on that at all. It's the entire movement. It's not about love. This is what was hardest for me to accept, even after I left a long time ago. The movement is about hate. It's about hatred of Muslim people, hatred of queer people, hatred of taxes, hatred of universities, hatred of scientists, hatred of experts, hatred of liberals, hatred of black people. I mean, it is, the entire movement is just like focusing on anything that deviates from a Leave It to Beaver style fantasy existence, to even like cutting your hair short and not growing beards. Like, it is insanity, and it has nothing to do with stuff Jesus. I'm not even a Christian anymore. I don't believe God or anything at all. But I can just tell you that, look, you ever notice, John never told me this, they never quote Jesus. They do a lot of quoting of Exodus and Leviticus and Paul. Not a lot of Jesus quotes.
No, because what do you do with love your enemy? Right? I mean, ultimately, and this is why, to me, and you know, I definitely am not one of these proselytizers anymore. It's not about, I have a superior religious belief. It isn't about that at all. The world's big. But for me, allegiance to Jesus is all I care about as a Christian, right? My allegiance is to the way of Jesus. Christian nationalism tells you to build new crosses and to crucify your enemies on those crosses. But Jesus taught us to bear a cross for our enemies. It is an antichrist position of what Christian nationalism advocates for, right? But when you have 40 plus years of a white evangelical church network with a publishing industry, a movie industry, a worship industry, a church industry, and now it's in bed with a right-wing media industry. Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, has Turning Point Faith, for example. Charlie Kirk tours megachurches, talking to these pastors, combining these right-wing nationalist talking points with some kind of faith rhetoric. When you have that power and you have billionaires funding that shit, you're able to out-talk and gaslight people into believing that the most Christian position is that we need more guns in schools, or that we need less affordable health care, or that global warming isn't really a thing, or that the liberals are going to destroy you and Trump is your savior. That's what happens when you put billions of dollars behind a network that's taken root over 40, 50 plus years, and that has combined itself with a right-wing media conglomerate that, we have to admit, has been very savvy in how it engages social media, Instagram, podcasts, TikTok, etc. This is the result. And it makes me so damn angry that I've watched the Jesus I gave allegiance to, even in that white evangelical church. When I prayed the prayer, I fucking meant it. Like, I'm in. No matter what, I'll count the cost. I lost my entire faith community over this shit, trying to be more faithful to following Jesus. It drives me nuts, right, that people like me are considered as a heretic by these people, because I believe that God loves gay people equally. And these people are arguing about if a convicted rapist, literally, who likes to sleep around and destroy marriages, is God's chosen person, and how dare I stand against him? Like, talk about an inverted faith. It makes me so furious. And frankly, it makes a lot of other people angry too, which is why I've been able to do this work at the level I've been able to do it, because we're all fucking pissed.
But it's funny, when I was talking to Tim, I was like, "Yo, Tim, you're gonna love TJ," because you guys had a very similar upbringing. One thing I wanted to mention there is that you guys were like, "Why doesn't the left or mainstream, or really anyone, take this as seriously?" And I want to give you a very honest answer to that question. Mm-hmm. It's because we don't believe you. Like genuinely, deep down in my core, I don't believe you believe what you say you do. And like, because to me, it's just like, I grew up very much, not in an evangelical church, but I grew up in the Catholic Church. I grew up surrounded by the Catholic faith. I was, not as indoctrinated as evangelicals, but pretty damn fucking indoctrinated. And the entire time I was like, yeah, this is bullshit. This is just like what people do. And you just nod your head and you're like, oh yeah, I kneel when they say kneel. I stand when I say stand. I sing when I say sing. But no one around me actually believes this bullshit. And I think that's how most Americans view religion. They don't view it as something that is truly believed. It's just something that you do as part of your culture, like Christmas. We put up a tree. Do I fucking know why that tree's there? I don't know. It's just what we fucking do. I don't believe there's any reason for that tree to be there. It just is. Right. But like, so it's hard. It's genuinely hard. Even like, as I know, and I've experienced people with intense faith, it is hard for me to be like, yeah, no, you genuinely believe that shit. And it's hard to even discuss because it's like, yeah, no one's really gonna actually believe that these people believe.
Can I add one thing here? Mm-hmm. And this is a very important piece and John, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts because you might not agree with me here, and that's fine. It's your show. Do what you want. But,
I'll disagree with you on your show too. Don't worry.
There's no borders to John's disagreements.
Here's my thing, right? I fully believe in secular progressive ideals. Many of them, I'm all on board. Mm-hmm. You do not defeat Christian nationalism with secularism. You can't do it. It's never going to happen because you have to understand when you're indoctrinated in that worldview, everyone but your own is the enemy. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden wants to persecute you. The government wants to persecute you. You are one day away. By the way, I have a fact check for this. Literally heard a pastor say this at a Turning Point USA Pastor Summit. So I'm not just bullshitting this. And TJ, you're going to know the sentiment. They believe that we are one day away from the Democratic president, in this case, Joe Biden, kicking down your door, taking your guns, taking your Bibles, and throwing you in prison for being a Christian. So in my opinion, the way that you respond to Christian nationalism is with better religion, not less religion. Doesn't mean that we have to convert people to Christianity. Isn't the point. What I'm saying is you need Christians like myself and other progressives who understand the world, who still believe in some kind of Christian paradigm to actually fight that fire. That's the water that you need. You don't do it with more secularism, which, I mean, you can try, but it only makes things not nearly as helpful. You need people who say, no, we get it. I understand how the world works. I'm also a Christian. We can combat this with a better religious idea or a better Christian or biblical interpretation than whatever the fuck this Christian nationalism is offering. So, I think long term, we need to start building, and this is honestly, John, why I had you on the show. We have to build a broader coalition of both the secular progressive and the secular left and the Christian left and Christian progressives working together, right? To say, no, we share the same values, even if we have different beliefs on some of these theological claims. But you need those Christians who grew up like how TJ and I did to help you understand better the culture and language and how we actually combat such a horrible, dehumanizing message.
So I don't say this very often, Tim, but I don't have a hard opinion on this one. It is very much an opinion that I am learning and formulating because on one side of me, I do think that religion in general is harmful to the human experience. And that's not faith. I think faith is good, but I think organized religion far more often than not is harmful. And one of the reasons for that is that it inherently, most of them teach a hierarchical view of morality, where you get your morality from God or gods or whatever, and then your pastor talks to God and he tells you what's right and wrong. And that, in my opinion, prevents more egalitarian mindsets from forming. However, as you're also saying, it's incredibly effective at organizing people. And if you are, say, a Leninist, you could replace the concept of God with a class consciousness and get people to militantly support a working class ownership of the means of production. And that can be successful. I don't really know what the right answer is. And with many things, I feel like it's in the middle somewhere. But this is a question. I know TJ has mentioned this a couple times where, like, as much as we on the left generally don't necessarily like religion, the right has definitely captured the church. And the church is a very meaningful part in a lot of people's lives that creates this social network of community that, even if it isn't coming from a philosophical perspective, is still very important to getting messages out. So I kind of wonder, in the work that you do, or if you have done anything like this, I don't even know, but like, in what ways have you found that you're able to use religion, and the church might not be the right way to phrase it, but how have you been able to use this to communicate with people all of these egalitarian ideals? And I know Jesus should be an easy way to do that, but apparently it's quite difficult.
Well, a couple of just big picture thoughts on this. I think that at this point, I have plenty of friends who are not religious anymore, and like this is not about a what's better or what's worse in terms of like religious supremacy or not. But I mean, there have been studies by secularists done that a healthy view of God and religion does benefit people's mental health, well-being overall compared to not. I mean, again, it depends on what view of God you have. If your view of God is someone who is tyrannical and thinks that you're a piece of shit, your mental health goes down. But if your view of God is like that friend who loves you and affirms you, your mental health studies actually tend to go up. And I can give you studies on this. Again, I'm not saying that therefore everyone has to believe in God, but I want to point out that the term religion is so broad. I don't want to discount the religion of MLK that drove him to do his work, or the religion of so many people who come before us in the abolitionist movement that drove the work that they did to advocate for the liberation of the Black community, right? The Black church and the work that it's done and continues to do is really important, especially in inner cities, etc. And so I'm with you in terms of the way I kind of think about it now, because I'm always kind of navigating like this both and perspective is, I think in my context of Christianity and the Bible, what I tell people is the Christian tradition can be used as a tool of liberation or a weapon of oppression, right? We know this. They made a slaveholder Bible, right? There were people saying, no, Bob Jones, God demands that the races stay segregated. I'm a Christian. And then you have MLK. No, God demands equality and justice. I'm a Christian. So two very different expressions of what is claiming to be under the same roof. So my take is that, I think that first off, pragmatically, you're never going to get rid of religion in our lifetime. It's always going to be here. It's super established. You're never going to be able to just, Thanos snap it out of existence. It is here. And to be clear, a lot of religious groups do a lot of good work on the ground in a very broken system. Admittedly, I don't think charity is the end goal solution for healthcare and for poverty at all. But there are a lot of groups on the ground doing a lot of that work inside of a system that is really fucked up. And I think that's good. So with that all being said, I don't exactly have the super easy answer, except for saying that I think we need more and more Christians to be loud and bold in their opposition to Christian nationalism for the sake of all of their neighbors. And I think what that means is building coalitions beyond what they're usually comfortable building. Being able to say, yeah, like me, for example, Andrew Seidel, he helps run Americans United. He's a good friend of mine. He's an atheist. We talk all the time. He's been on the show multiple times. We share so many of the same values. I love that dude. We have a coalition built. Me and Kassam Rashid, he's a human rights lawyer who's also Muslim, on the show many times. We text all the time. Very different faith traditions, but we have common ground around the values. So I think we have to kind of build a new people's movement of what are the values that we can agree on while respecting how we all have gotten there, right? Values of humanization, not dehumanization. Values of love, justice, inclusivity, affordable healthcare for all, etc. Right? Abolishing the prison industrial complex. We can all get there through our different beliefs and share the same value.
All right. I want to address all of that, but I want to just, this comment real quick says, the kitty is beautiful, TJ. Yes, this is Wolfie. He always pops up during the show. So he's like,
love that.
He's our unofficial mascot. So, all right. A lot to cover there with what you guys talked about. I hope I can keep up for everything. But all right. I want to start with what you mentioned, Tim, about how it's impossible, or it's it'd be effective if the left wouldn't try to eschew religion, to try to just push it away and say, hey, secular humanism is the way to go, and to try to abandon it. I've come to a similar conclusion, begrudgingly, but I have come to this conclusion as well, because like it's a lot like you mentioned that religion is I get why religion works. I get it. I understand. Like John mentioned with the coalition building, even having something that bonds your community together, like where are people going to have weddings and funerals and stuff like that? You know, like those little community events that are hard to just organically bring together, that have any purpose and meaning outside of, you know, just black and white paperwork. And that does work on people. I'm not religious. I don't believe in gods or anything like that, but I see why it is effective. And if we do want to, you know, push forward our agenda, we have to just come to the cold hard reality. The majority of people, left or right, are going to be religious. And if I go around all day saying, you stupid fucking morons, don't you realize this is all a fairy tale? Now, I might believe that, but saying it to folks is not going to make them come on my side. It's not going to make them work with me. And as long as their goals align with mine, let's go. Let's rock and roll. And, go ahead, Stim.
Oh, no, nothing. I'm listening.
So we know who also came to this conclusion was a guy named Maximilien Robespierre. And for those of you who are not familiar with this guy, he was kind of the head honcho during the French Revolution. And Robespierre, he had the same thought that, you know, about the Catholic Church is full of problems and issues, a myriad of them, and we need to get rid of them. All right, step one. But we need something to replace it. We can't just have nothing here. And he actually came up with something. It was called the Cult of the Supreme Being. And I love that it was called cult. I love that. Just makes me laugh. That's just like, man, they're signing up, just telling you right up front that it's a cult. And it was essentially like this this deistic thing where this like Paul with the unknown God, and say there's just some unknown God out there. And he had this huge statue he built for it. He had these ceremonies and parties. Everyone laughed him out of town. They thought it was absurd. That was ridiculous. So not only do you have to recognize people have faith, but, you know, working with their particular faith, because you're not going to force people out of their religion. You cannot do it. It's integral to who they are. Yeah. And so you have to move on from there. And the people you named there, Tim, I wrote some down. Joel Webbin. Guys, if you don't know who Joel Webbin is, just do a Google or YouTube search for Joel Webbin. Write anything about women. I've seen him do like half a dozen screeds about how the 19th Amendment needs to be abolished.
Oh, yeah. But and just to be clear, by the way, that's not, people listening might go, that's so fringe. A guy at Turning Point USA at America Fest last year said the same thing in front of 14,000 people to a round of applause. And I know that because I go to America Fest every year. And I'm going next week. So,
how do you do this to yourself?
People think.
Oh, no. Yeah, I have a whole video on my YouTube channel, Power's Taken Not Given. You guys will check it out sometime. I have a whole video showing clips of this. It shows Ann Coulter.
Oh, yeah.
It has Jesse Waters, Jason Whitlock.
Yes, Whitlock is the one who says it.
Mm-hmm. What's it? Lauren Witzke. You guys know who Lauren Witzke is. She's holy shit. Lauren Witzke is in Delaware. She was the Republican nominee for the Senate in Delaware in 2020. She is a Nazi. I'm not even like, it's not being hyperbolic. She genuinely is a Nazi.
She's the female version of Nick Fuentes. I mean, literally.
Yes, yeah. And the Republicans nominated her for the Senate. Of course they did. But she has a whole thing. Their whole thing is that women shouldn't vote. And if a woman didn't vote, we'd never have a Democratic president, which is true. And that the man is the one who should represent the family. Greg Locke is another one. Greg Locke is another insane one. Sean Foyt and everything.
Oh, yeah, Sean Foyt.
Charlie Kirk spoke at Maranatha Baptist University, which is the college I graduated from. He spoke there like last year or something like that. So like these people are deeply intertwined in this movement. They are not going anywhere. And like John and I talk about this all the time, how it is unfortunate that the right has subsumed the concepts of patriotism, 100%. Of the American flag, of church, as much as it's true. Like we can go out there dressed in all black, like ninjas and everything with Antifa. That's not going to win people over. That's going to freak them out. Wearing the stupid Captain America shirt and stuff, that's going to get folks on your side. They love that stuff. No one wants to hate the country they grew up in. Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
I am very much a pragmatist. You know, I'm all about how do we get the job done, right?
Yes.
And so for me, I'm just like, I just don't care what we have to do, but I'm with you. Like I tell people often in my story, I didn't change my views by being called a bigoted asshole online. It never worked. It never worked. I did not change my views from, you know, being gay is sinful to what was I thinking? Because someone online was like, you're a bigoted asshole. It was my first ever friend I met at Starbucks at 18 who was gay, named Joey, who showed me that actually gay people are human beings too. That was the first seed, right? And so I want to be clear too. I think that there is a both and. on a systemic level, on a political level, we absolutely resist these things, right? We absolutely fight like hell to do all we can to change the system. On a relational level, you don't change people by just screaming, even just raw data at them. It's not how the human mind works.
Yeah.
You do it by building relationships, by earning trust, etc. And that's not everyone's job. People have different jobs and different things to do. But the more we can make our message attractive and make it honest, like, hey, we actually care about all of our neighbors, even our Trump voting ones, to get affordable healthcare. We don't want anyone in medical debt. Those messages, I think, resonate much more with people than those stupid, idiot, anti-intellectual Trumpers. Even if
they are
for some people,
it's
it
true.
could be.
Yeah.
It definitely could be. It for sure. But to also be clear, there, and I will tell you, going to and this, you guys are not Democrats. I know that you're leftists, and that's a very different thing. I will tell you that going to the DNC for the first time in my life, the National Convention, I did for the first time get like I can understand the caricature of the Democratic elitists who kind of snubs their nose at at rural America. I totally get that. And that's, I think, John, we talked about this on my show. We need a working class populist movement of like, no, for the blue collar worker, for the person in the trades, right? For the person who has no union options because of how the system is rigged in the billionaire's favor. You need a movement that says we absolutely see you. And whether we like it or not, on a pragmatic level, even though it's not true, Trump gave those people the perception that he sees them. Now, he doesn't. He doesn't give a shit about them. He cares about Elon Musk and making billionaires more and more rich, obviously. But the messaging backed by a right-wing media empire gave those people the perception that they actually care about those people. And we have to acknowledge that, whether we like it or not.
The best way to erase bigotry is to just expose bigots to the kind of people they hate.
Yes.
It's incredible how much of bigotry is just determined by not being exposed to something.
100%.
I remember reading, I forget if it was like a military study when they were first like integrating the military, and they found that like the naval like sailors who went on boats with black people and came back like completely revert. They went out thinking they couldn't do it, and they completely reversed just their entire worldview because they were on a boat stuck with people that they eventually found were actually just normal human beings just like that. And that's why I say, and I've been saying this since before I was a content creator, the recent liberal movement, and I'll say the entire left wing, because I've seen a lot of fairly far left people say the same thing over the past 10 or so years of, hey, we need to deplatform right-wingers. We need to not communicate with these people. It has bit us in the ass so fucking hard because you just cede this room to all of these different organizations, to the churches, to whatever, all of these places that you could have been exposing to ideas, to people that would just immediately disprove their worldview in the way that your gay friend did. They're just getting more and more secluded, and that's where bigotry thrives.
Can I give you guys a real example of this? Like a real story.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I go to this.
Your gay friend from Starbucks is fake?
No. Like just a real example of what you just said about how ceding ground or deplatforming doesn't really work. Mm-hmm. I go, like I said, to America Fest every year. This is my third year in a row going. At this point, that most of the big players know who I am. I mean, Charlie Kirk knows who I am. I met Charlie a few times, etc. And I go there for two reasons. Number one, as a white, what I call is a bro-evangelical passing dude, I can speak the language, I can talk to these people, and I can get a good experience of the culture that animates what's going on. And then I can report back in a truthful way what I experienced and what animates it. So like my last video from last year was over an hour long, detailing the whole thing. So I go for that reason, but I also go because I want these people to know that me, the big bad woke liberal guy, is actually a human being, and I'm willing to talk to these people and try and find common ground, even when it's really uncomfortable. Now, there's a person, I'm not going to name her, but I will just say that she is one of the players in this space. She is very volatile. I would never share her content. She is transphobic. She is dehumanizing. She makes no sense. She is the caricature of an anti-intellectual, Trump robot who thinks that she's also a Christian. And one time we went back and forth online. She didn't like me. I met her at America Fest. We ended up shaking hands and talking. Turns out we had some things in common. We kind of hit it off on a personality level, like surprisingly so. And we kept in touch and we kept talking the whole event. And I saw her again last year. and we got drinks one night, and I was able to say to her, I'll call her Jessica. That's not her name. We're talking. I said, Jessica, help me understand. Like, don't you think that as a Christian, and the fact that we live in the world's richest country, shouldn't people all across the country have access to affordable health care? Like, I don't want you in medical debt. I know you don't want me in medical debt. We can do that. Doesn't that just like make sense as far as like a pro-family position? Like, I just use that language towards her. Like, isn't it pro-family to want to make sure all of our kids have affordable health care and that mom and dad have affordable health care so they can live longer? And essentially she's like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I think I'm actually in favor of that. Here I am talking to someone who's like a MAGA loving loyalist. The Marxists are coming. And I'm talking to her over drinks, and she's persuaded that affordable healthcare for everyone makes a lot of sense. Again, this is not everyone's job, and it's a slow drip, but those conversations over and over and over again, by building those bridges when appropriate. I mean, how else do we do this? We're on the same planet as these people. I don't believe in killing people. I believe in non-dehumanization. I'm a Christian. Like, violence is never the answer in my worldview. So we got to make it work. And I think we have to do it by reason and by persuasion.
I think that I'm curious to know who this was. I know you want to say it, but I have an idea. When you're describing this person, I was like, oh, I think I might just guess. But then again, it could be one of 1,000 people. They all kind of sound the same. But I do think it's necessary to change the messaging that the left does, because look, I am trust me, everyone who knows me, they know that I 100% support, when the opportunity is appropriate, well-deserved ridicule. It's great. It's fucking awesome. I love it. And I will continue to do so. However, at least on an interpersonal level, when you're talking to people, what I found that works the best over the years is something you can only do once, unfortunately, but it's not to tell people anything about your political views at all when you first meet them, like a normal person. And so, fight the urge, leftists. Fight the urge to just spout your politics when you first meet someone. I know it's strong, but you can fight against it. We have faith in you, but just let them see you at work. Let them see you be a polite, normal person, have the same interests and same joys that they have. Right. Show up on time, do your job, work hard, go home, be a model member of the community. 6 months in, drop that you're a communist on them and watch their face. Just watch them. They have no idea how to respond, because especially if they think highly of you as a person, and double points if they think you're smart. And if that happens, they don't know what to do, because they've been told communists or leftists, Democrats are one of two types of people, possibly both. They are either the most evil scum, pedophilic, bastards you've ever met, or they're just really stupid and lazy and people you can't trust. And when they see that you're none of those things, and they can't just dismiss you now. They can't say, oh, well, TJ's a liar. I know that. Or, oh, well, TJ's a piece of shit. I know he's not. They have to take you seriously, and they will ask you questions. And so, yeah, I don't advocate, just going, the guns of Navarone on them right away, but letting them know you as a person can be pretty helpful in pushing this forward. And I had something I wrote down here. Going backward here, but you're talking about how the Christianity thing and how they don't worship Jesus anymore or at all in this sect or whatever is. John and I talked about this the other day, that Jesus, his whole ministry, he never had one nice thing to say about rich people. Jesus dunked on rich people every chance he possibly got. And that's what's been so interesting to see in this movement, that they're not worshiping or holding in high regard anything Jesus said, because if they did, they would not be staunch capitalists. They would not. They would be. Jesus said you can serve God and mammon. I know which one they've chosen. They have chosen mammon 7 days a week, and very proud of it, to the extent that I think that's one of the major reasons. Actually, the primary reason Trump won was that he sounds like an evangelical pastor when he talks, not necessarily in the content, but the way his bluster and his performative nature. But also because he was fucking rich. And that these folks say they're not prosperity gospel. They love saying it. They absolutely are. Because the way that this place is set up, this religion is set up, is that if you follow all the rules, you do what God says, you're not guaranteed to be rich, but you're not going to be poor. It's not going to happen. And if you do everything right and you get all that money, well, if you got all that money, you must have done something right. Odds are that you're one of God's chosen favorite. So if Donald Trump has the most money on the stage, why would they not support him? Why would they not? And What fuck? We'll keep going. Tim, I want to ask you about this. Like when you,
we're saying fuck it to the topics.
Yeah, right.
We are going all in on this. I'm all right with that, by the way. Our other topics are a little tweener.
Yeah, you're right. It's true.
We will get to the healthcare CEO.
Oh, we got to it. So good. But so when did you broke with the like white, evangelical movement? When is this 2016 that you broke, or was it before that?
No, it was after. I mean,
it was 2020.
When I started New Evangelicals as an Instagram account, I was still serving at my white evangelical church as a volunteer drummer.
Oh,
and my hope was that we could reform from within. Like, hey guys, we can fix this stuff. And by the way, I was learning so much so quick. I mean, again, it's embarrassing to say now, but the murder of Ahmaud Arbery was when I went, whoa, something's way wrong. Like it just hit me in a way where I'm like, I don't know what I don't know, but something feels way wrong with race relations in America. Because again, in white evangelicalism, MLK fixed racism years ago, and so everything's all good. Like it doesn't happen anymore, So you're all of a sudden, I'm like reading The New Jim Crow. I'm reading Color of Compromise by Jamar Tisby. I'm reading Stand from the Beginning. I'm like, oh my God, like no idea. So I had all these like little moments, But yeah, I was still in the system for a long time until my church gave me the ultimatum to either stop serving with them as a volunteer or stop doing the work I was doing online with New Evangelicals, which by the way, at the time was just an Instagram account as a no-name volunteer, just making, hey guys, what do you think about this? And sharing the responses in my Instagram stories. There was no organization. There was no nonprofit, nothing. I was just an amateur content creator, not knowing what the hell I was doing, but we were growing very quickly. So when that happened, when my church gave me the ultimatum, and of course I resigned on the spot and said, there's no way I'm stopping what I'm doing now. That kind of gave me the permission structure to really start digging deep into my faith, both on a theological level. I mean, the way I describe it is that a lot of us were in this basement of evangelical fundamentalism, and we're taught that above ground was like a desert wasteland. And when we finally got above ground, it turns out we were still underneath an entire humongous house the entire time, like hundreds of rooms with different ecosystems and galaxies of thinkers and philosophers and theologians thinking about and arguing about the Christian tradition. And so I was like, holy shit, like there's so much I didn't know that, like James Cone, for example, the father of Black liberation theology, I had no clue that was a thing. So a lot of my work then became interviewing some of these leading scholars on process theology, or why maybe hell in the Christian tradition isn't eternal after all, or maybe it's universal reconciliation. And then we got into the political stuff as I saw Christian nationalism growing, and I'm watching more and more Christians being like, no, guys, like, Donald Trump is going to save America. No, guys, we're a Christian country. No, guys, the insurrection was staged. I'm like, staged? There was a prayer to white Jesus done publicly, where they praise God for giving them this opportunity. I mean, it was like a test run for like the modern day Crusades, basically. Like, thank you, God, Father of white light, is what the shaman guy says. So I just think it was all those things in one that led me to on this path of like decolonizing my faith and thinking about colonization for the first time. And there's a great book by Charles Hogan, who wrote a book called it's called Unsettling Truths. It's all about the doctrine of discovery and how America was founded, and all that stuff. So I'm just like reading all this shit super quick, like, oh my God, I had no idea. And then also trying to catch up, helping people kind of navigate some of these big questions who are coming from the same faith tradition I came from. So that's kind of like the real crash course, version of like kind of how I got here. It's been a very quick journey. It will be 4 years in the end of this month.
Damn.
I want to point out that we have a common fan.
Oh, cool.
Kyle here, who's a regular listener of our show, says he loves your content. So,
hi, Kyle. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I got to say, I don't like the fact that John and Kyle have both kept Tim away from me. They've never mentioned you, man. Just so you know, like, apparently this is amazing content out there, and everyone's leaving TJ in the dark. Not very cool, fellas.
What's up with that? Bad friends.
Yeah. And I wanted to, sorry, John, but I wanted to, before I forgot, because I keep forgetting stuff that I want to bring up. But with the evangelical movement and their denial of reality and everything that you see, because like the January 6th, I saw this with Brett Kavanaugh. With Brett Kavanaugh's hearing, I remember this. There's a girl who I went to college with, smart, almost as smart as me. Very smart. She's bright.
She was top 2 in the class.
Top 2 in the class. So I've always held her in high regard. Now she is conservative, and I saw like during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings when they were investigating his sexual assault allegation. She said after she saw, I think it was concerning Ford, the lady, that she said what happened. She says, "Wow, that was a pretty compelling testimony. I don't think that lady's lying. Like she definitely seems to be telling the truth, and I could feel the emotion. She's not making this up to make a name for herself or something." And I said, "All right, okay," because you rarely see people, depart from their political, lanes. And then next day, the Republicans came out with the statement saying, "Listen, we don't believe she's lying. We think that she's telling the truth, but it wasn't Brett Kavanaugh. It was someone else that did that." And next day she said, "Yeah, I think that's what happened. I think they were just waiting for permission to say this stuff." Because look, this is like, John, you were talking about how you don't believe people are that, consumed by this religious absurdity. You got to understand that we're very proud of the fact that the world calls us fools. Very proud of that. Like, cannot get enough of it. Tim was saying, like, there's churches all around the country right now where they're telling you that, it's any minute now where the Democrats are going to come steal your Bibles and steal your guns. Tim, back me up on this. We would do like these thought experiments to children saying, if the military walked in right now, put a gun to your head and said, "Do you accept or do you reject Christ?" What would you say? And you'd better say accept. You'd better be willing to die and like leave your brain scattered all over the floor to prove how much you love Jesus of Nazareth. What you got?
You ever read this book, baby? Jesus Freaks, Voice of the Martyrs?
Oh, I never read it. No, but heard
dude, this is just a book full of stories of people who were martyred for their faith as Christians.
Yeah.
I would read this while taking a poop on the toilet, thinking, "Oh my God, I'm not sure if I can actually do this. I'm not sure if I can actually do this." This is the stuff I was reading when I was like 13 years old. And there's 2 volumes of this, by the way.
That's
2 volumes.
Volume 2, yeah. It's our updated Fox's Book of Martyrs. Not good enough. Like Christians martyred 2,000 years ago, not good enough. We need more. But really, they said that they told you were a bad Christian if you weren't willing to do that. So
yes,
if you aren't getting that persecution, you're gonna find it somewhere. You're gonna make yourself the victim. Yeah.
I call this the ACPEC. The
American
Christian ACPEC. American Christian Persecution Complex.
ACPEC. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what this is. The entire, and I want to be very specific to your audience because I know maybe a lot of them aren't part of a church culture. There are many Christian traditions in America that are actually very intellectual, very philosophical, believe in science. Like they're not what we're describing now. This what we're talking about actually comes out of the fundamentalist growth movement in the early 20th century. Okay, there's a whole history of this particular strand that kind of launches us into this anti-intellectual, the Bible is inerrant kind of view. Not all Christians, in fact, most Christians historically and globally don't believe the way that we're talking about the Christian faith. I want to be very clear to the audience. Okay, but that being said, in America, it's one of the most powerful sections and subsects of Christian thought. You are absolutely right. Okay, there is a verse that God uses the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. That verse is ripped from its context and applied to me. Yeah, you know what? You do think I'm dumb, but one day you're going to know what's up. Or how about the story of Noah and the flood? How his neighbors didn't believe him, then God flooded the entire world. These stories are hijacked out of their historical and cultural context and used as fodder to prove that by being anti-intellectual and standing on the firm truth of God's word, somehow we're in the right. Unfortunately, they are completely wrong, even by many Christian, even global evangelical standards. There's a great scholar named Michael Bird. He's a I would say moderate, conservative, Australian evangelical. He routinely says, I do not understand how batshit crazy white evangelicals in America are when it comes to how they think about the Bible, the Christian tradition, and their political views. And he's considered a moderate evangelical globally. So I'm with you all the way on this, TJ. What we grew up in was the basement of Christian thought. It was a stinky, damp, nothing beyond its borders, nothing exists beyond this. This is the only truth kind of Christianity. And it's incredibly toxic. And it dude, I think for me, just speaking raw with you, TJ, because you get this world. I'm not sure how you feel, but I thought a lot about what is it the most? Like if I had to find a singular point of what drives me the most crazy about white evangelicalism today, it is the fact that I was taught by those people to care about truth and integrity. It was drilled into my head to care about truth, to care about truth. Truth matters. Truth matters. We need to know what's true. And watching these people trade the truth for a lie, to quote Apostle Paul, is mind-blowing to me. The same people who taught me that God's truth is true are the same people telling me, well, the insurrection was probably rigged or the election was stolen. I'm like, guys, but we can objectively prove that the election was indeed not stolen. No, we really can't know. I'm like, wait, I thought you cared about truth. That's how I got here. I gave a shit about truth. That to me is probably the crux of what drives me the most crazy.
Yeah. John, I want to talk about what you said too. I don't want to divert. We'll get back to you, sure, I promise. But it's
poor John. John's like, I'm just gonna drink, guys.
I knew that, like, when you have like a friend,
yeah,
and like you introduce them to another friend, that like they're gonna hit it off more. Yeah. I knew this would happen. Like, it's totally okay. I understand.
So, all right. Well, I want to address these in reverse order that you went through here, Tim, and talking about like how it was so important that truth, we would capitalize it. We would capitalize, all right? We would capitalize the T in truth. That's how we're not joking here. Seriously, like, we would actually, like, God was truth, just like God was love. And that's what led me out of it, ironically, in a lot of ways. And most people who really actually did care about it, because what this is shown is that the Christian evangelical movement doesn't really care about truth and morality at all. It cares about political power. That's what it cares about. And listen, speaking from a politics standpoint, makes perfect sense. If you're talking about just politics is only about power, and how you get it doesn't really matter as long as you have it, honestly. And so I see why they did that for their politics, but that just, to me, it seems that's going to destroy the actual religious movement. It will, because when your kids see that, when your neighbors see it, as, oh, you don't really give a shit about this at all. You're just actually saying, oh, I want, conservative politics, and I will embrace anyone and anything, like someone to the lowest levels, like Donald Trump, and then try to paper it over saying, well, God picked King David, right? Go fuck yourself. Okay. Like you are not taking any of this shit seriously. And one thing that it does help out with, you mentioned how this is, like, I would say, the most powerful Christian bloc in the United States by a healthy margin. What they do benefit from is the simplicity,
Yes.
which, that's why
binary thinking.
Yes, it is. This is black, this is white, this is right, this is wrong, this is up, this is down. That's the entire, what the Bible says right there. It's literally true. Don't bother looking at the history. Don't look at poetry. Don't look at any other interpretations.
But in Scott Cole, the author of Ministers of Propaganda, a great book for anyone, says he calls it selective literalism. How they actually select only, again, Jesus, the rich man not entering the kingdom. It's about the heart. Genesis 1 and 2, literal. It's motivated literalism.
Yeah, I joke a lot about there's a story where it's called the rich young ruler, where the rich young ruler comes up to Jesus and he says, Rabbi, what must I do to be saved? Jesus gave him the same answer he gave everybody else, love your neighbor with all your heart and love God, and he says, I've done it. I've kept all the commandments. He says, okay, cool. One more thing, sell all your shit, give all your money to the poor people, follow me. That's how you get saved. And then the rich man, he walks away dejected because he loves his possessions. And they'll say, well, that doesn't apply to us.
Right, exactly.
That just applies to him because
that's just a parable.
Metaphor. It's just showing that he cared too much about his possessions. Apparently, so do you. Apparently,
it's about the heart, TJ. It's about the heart.
Yeah, I know. So it is selective literalism, and that goes into what I was going to address. Something John said, where you said how I don't believe they actually believe this wild, insane stuff. Tim mentioned that the modern evangelical fundamentalist movement started in the early 20th century, and one of the big tentpole events, they actually lost, but they love talking about it, was the Scopes monkey trial of 1920. You already knew it was coming.
Of course, I saw coming a mile away. I know where we're going.
Yep. So the Scopes monkey trial was about evolution being taught in public schools. A teacher was trying to teach evolution in school, and he got sued and everything. And so it was between, and the lawyers, like the counsel, was William Jennings Bryan, who represented the Christian, faith that the Bible 7-day creation is literal, and Clarence Darrow, who's representing the state, saying no, you can't do this. They got their asses kicked. Obviously, the state said no, clear, you can't teach this religious dog shit in schools, but they still brag about it. But there's something happened during the trial in which Clarence Darrow asked William Jennings Bryan, okay, do you genuinely believe that Jonah was swallowed by a whale? I know that doesn't actually say whale in the Bible. I know it says great fish, whatever. But he says, do you believe Jonah was actually swallowed by a whale, survived being in a whale's stomach for 3 days, and then was vomited back up on the beach? And William Jennings Bryan said, I would believe the Bible if it said Jonah swallowed the whale for 3 days and vomited on the beach. And they brag about this. They say that's the kind of, and honestly, I hate to admit, it made sense to me. It did. When I was a kid, I was like, yeah, if God can do anything, he can make a person swallow a whale. Why wouldn't he? Right. Yeah. And that's so like it teaches you all this. And about the truth, I'm coming back, folks. I'm bringing it back. But back to the truth that so it teaches you from like the earliest days you can think of to that scientists are lying to you. Professors are lying to you. Psychologists are lying to you. Global warming isn't real. Evolution is an unproven theory. It tells you that every part of academia is lying to you to keep you from God. Like, that's it. That's their only motivation. They know God is real. They hate God. They know the earth is 6,000 years old, but they've all gotten together.
Ken Ham, Creation Museum.
Ken Ham, Kent Hovind. They found out the truth. They're going to say, and they're lying. So it primes you to believe in bullshit, absolute nonsense. And so like, oh, COVID's not real, of course. Like, they lie about everything else. Of course they're going to lie about COVID. They're lying about economics. Trickle-down economics is real. It helps people. So that I don't think it's so much that they know it's a lie. Like, they've just been primed to believe that lies are truth.
Well, and think about it. The trickle-down economics is reinforced by right-wing talk radio, right? There's one outlet. Your academia hates Christians is reinforced by propaganda like God's Not Dead, the movie. All these things are reinforced through media that you consume. Just one quick thought. You mentioned, I wanted just to really hammer home for your audience, like how some of the so-called intellectuals of fundamentalism view the Bible. So one of the people out there, his name's Al Mohler. Now, this is a man full of power. He is the president of the Southern Baptist Seminary. He is one of the leading figureheads of like modern evangelical fundamentalism. There's a really good book called The 5 Views of Inerrancy. It's 5 different scholars talking about if the Bible is inerrant, which essentially means the Bible is true in the history, morality, and like mythologies that it tells. So it's literal, it's factual, etc. And obviously, most scholars don't believe that for good reason. I'll get into that for a second. But Al Mohler says in his essay that if the Bible says, and I'm paraphrasing, that the walls of Jericho came down after being marched around 7 days, and the archaeological evidence does not agree with that, I will believe the Bible no matter what, because it's ultimately true. And when I read that, by the way, not super far in my path yet. I was still kind of moderate. I was like, wait, you're telling me that if we have evidence that goes against what the Bible says, you would say, I don't believe the evidence, I believe the Bible? That doesn't make any sense. It's so illogical. But this is how fundamentalists think about the scriptures, where they will actually close their ears and shut their eyes and say, I don't care about any other kind of data. If the Bible says it, that settles it. And it gets us in all kinds of trouble when these people get real political power. And so I just want to really emphasize that. Now, what I would argue as a Christian now is that fundamentalists actually impose a modernist framework onto a collection of texts that have no such framework.
Absolutely.
The authors, I should say, and the editors of the Hebrew Bible do not think about history how Westerners think about history. They are not thinking about history in terms of what is maybe like the iPhone camcorder footage. They obviously are combining things with myth, some fact, maybe some fiction. That's how they do it. So it's actually the fundamentalists that treats the Bible with a low view, not a high enough view. And that's what makes me so aggravated, is these people will say, we're Bible-believing Christians. No, you're not. You're actually modernists imposing an unhelpful worldview on the text and constricting the complexity and the richness of a whole different world that lived before us. So I'll stop ranting about that, but it just gets me so aggravated.
It's telling that I thought it was really funny that you guys said they capitalized the T on the truth, because it's not the truth. It is a branded truth.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
it is a proper noun. It is not the thing that it actually means. No, but so as you were talking there, Tim, I couldn't help but think of something I've mentioned on the show before, and I've been trying to cook this into a concise, pithy thing. But there is, and you can talk about religion this way, you can talk about so many things, but so many times when you are talking with someone and they are just, you're bringing them right up to the point and they're walking all the way there with you, and then they just refuse to acknowledge that reality is before them. And you can talk about this like with the walls of Jericho, like if it is proven that this is wrong, then that proof is wrong, because this is the thing I hold most important. And the thing that a lot of people don't understand, like a lot of people are probably listening to that going like, oh, that's crazy, that's absurd. But we all do this. Yeah. There is too much information in this world for our brains to comprehend. Yep. We have to assume certain things are true. Maybe even say have faith in them. Because if we do not, we'll go insane. And when one of those core pillars is questioned, we have two options. Either we take this new piece of evidence that contradicts the pillar, blow out the pillar, destroy everything it supports, and have to reconstruct our entire worldview, or we find an excuse for why that piece of evidence is incorrect. And you did the work. You've spent hours and hours and hours reading and researching and reconstructing your worldview while maintaining the pillar of Jesus, which is wonderful, but you could not maintain the pillar of the evangelical church. Okay. And so many of us do that. And I talk about this with immigration a lot, where there is this pillar that like America is just good. It's just innately good. So many Americans assume that America is a force for good in this world.
Yeah.
But once you start seeing the facts of like, hey, maybe we shouldn't have fucking nuked Japan twice. Right. Right. And that is it's so obvious that we were wrong to do that. But if you polled Americans, they would say, oh no, we had to do that, or else we would have had to invade. More people would have died. And they just consume that propaganda and believe it, because if they were to understand the actual truth of the situation, they'd go, oh wait, maybe America isn't the good guy. And that pillar supports so much that it doesn't matter how heavy the evidence is. It would take so much work to build that pillar back up, and they would never do it. And you can take it for religion. You can take it for people who stay in abusive relationships. You can take it for people who believe whatever. If you blow out that pillar, it's not that the evidence doesn't matter. It's the amount of work it would take to accept the evidence. And that's the part that is so hard about, trying to convince people that they're wrong when it comes to those core fundamental beliefs.
100%.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tim. I
agree. That's all.
Oh, I was going to say.
I like to hear Tim.
That's like John's like, goddamn right. What I think, John, about that is, I think it goes back to what Tim mentioned about the simplicity. That whenever you tell folks about this, that it doesn't serve any good, certainly no historical relevance to saying the United States is a good nation. That it doesn't make any sense. What does good even mean? But if that's your pillar, like your standpoint is the United States is the good guy, like we are the savior of planet Earth, and then you bring up stuff like, like the White House was built by slaves. We nuked Japan.
These lands are stolen. Like we wiped out indigenous people.
Massacred and genocide the Native Americans. Vietnam War was a horrendous excuse to just massacre. So it's just bad.
We're funding the bombing and the genocide of the Palestinians as we speak.
Yeah. It's like, so you should give them example after example, but what people, once again, they think in a simplistic binary, because when you say, well, look at all the bad things they've done, what they hear is, oh, America's actually bad. And it's like, no, America's not good. It's not bad. It's just a country. Countries do good things and they do bad things, right? I trying to label like this subjective, the United States is a bad nation, is not helpful. It's just as unhelpful as saying it's a good nation. Like, hey, you talk about the historical events, you talk about its effects, and that's where we're coming from. But they don't hear that because they want to think in that simplistic thing. Because you topple that the United States is good, founding myth that they have. they're going to replace it with another founding myth that the United States is bad, and they can't accept that. And I think that's another where the messaging comes in, where they think we're trying to tell them to hate the country. Now, admittedly, I have met a few lefts. So yeah, this country fucking sucks. I hate it. Good luck with that. Good luck with, because one, it's not a helpful thing to do, because I'm not trying to pass a moral judgment on 230 years of American history. I'm just trying to solve problems here. I don't give a shit if you think it's a good nation or not.
Right.
But that's what people
we're
hear.
Here, right? So
yeah, we're exactly can't change that. And also with embrace, John, you were talking about this about embracing like strength as being leftist, because unfortunately we have a big problem with that. And that's kind of odd when you consider that, I don't know, for the first 60, 70 years, communist propaganda looked like this. Like this was what like your standard communist was, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's a dude. Yeah, it's a dude holding a giant hammer with muscles on an anvil and stuff. That was our propaganda.
And he's red. He's red pilled.
That is red pilled.
The original red pill.
Now that's a slogan.
Yo,
you're welcome.
Yo,
that's a merch idea right there.
Yeah,
the original red pill.
That's good. All right, that was good shit. But talking about strength and everything, let's talk about our world's newest hero that we have in this nation right here. I don't know the guy's name, I don't know the man's name, but many of you heard, I'm sure, that the CEO of United HealthCare, I think it was Brian something. Fuck, I don't care about his name.
Thompson.
But Brian Thompson, yeah, you got that's the most respect he's going to get in the show. We're going to hear his name, but he was gunned down yesterday at 7 a.m. outside of a hotel on his way to a shareholders meeting that still went on. By the way, they did not postpone the meeting; they had it anyway.
That's not really an example
funny.
Of that's really funny.
If that's not like choose this day who you're going to serve, them shareholders were like, yeah, Mammon, obviously, like, fuck this guy.
Exactly.
We have a meeting to get onto.
They stepped over his body.
No, they did not. Dude, you're lying to me.
No. So he was shot outside the hotel, not outside the conference building. But I'm just saying that he got shot. The meeting.
Tim, do you think it would have changed anything if they had stepped over his body?
Yeah, really. Yeah, they didn't put the yellow tape. They did the chalk outline, and they just kept on their way or whatever. Hey, those quarterly earnings, we got to have the update on this. And it's like they didn't even have to have it in person. Like I don't know why they bothered doing that, but they had the meeting, their shareholder, like the stock actually increased and everything like that, which I think goes to show you how unimportant CEOs actually are. Like the guy, right? Like if like someone who is like a skilled artisan or something dies, the work suffers. A CEO, they're plug and play, folks. They're gone. But all right, John, actually we'll go to our guest first. Tim, what were your thoughts when you first heard about this tragic event?
Well, honestly, as a Christian, it is tragic. Like I abhor the loss of life. Sorry, it's true. Like one of our core pillars as new evangelicals is non-dehumanization. So for me, I absolutely hate that this man was gunned down, and I absolutely hate the healthcare system our insurance system that he represented. I mean, they've killed many more people. Okay?
Yes.
I'm not trying to minimize any of that. To me, it's a both and. As far as I know, this guy was married, so a partner is no longer around. I think he might have had kids. That to me is a huge. His kids don't give a fuck like what he was doing. They don't have a dad. To me, that's tragic, and I don't think that gunning down people is going to solve problems long term. And at the same time, I fucking hate American healthcare. It is the biggest garbage system ever that sucks up money from the middle and lower class and putting them into debt, denying their claims. And this man represents the biggest company who does that shit, right? I think that their quarterly profit was like $9 billion. And also on the shell casing was denied, deposed, and something else. So obviously this was motivated. It seems like, at least on the surface, we don't have all the details yet, but it seems like it was motivated by the fucking predatory insurance company ecosystem that's allowed to flourish here in the United States. While I think the number I read was today, 14 million people, 6% of the U.S. population have medical debt. 1%, it's over $10,000 in medical debt. That's not including student loan debt. It doesn't fucking add up. The fact that, again, we live in the world's richest country and people are going into debt to get life-saving care is ridiculous. I run a small nonprofit. I have to go through the New Jersey healthcare marketplace. I make not enough money, so I get a subsidy. If I make any more, that subsidy goes away. $800 a month for me and my partner, not including my kids. They're covered somewhere else. That doesn't include my deductible or copay or for in-network or out-of-network. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy. So honestly, like I completely mourn the loss of this guy's life. I do. I absolutely do. As a Christian, every person's made in the image of God. No exceptions, no ands, ifs, or buts. And also, our system here is absolute dog shit, and I hate it. And I hate it. And I hate it.
John, before you hop in, I want to talk about something Tim said where you mentioned he was married. You're correct. And I want to put up a statement from his wife. I don't know if you guys saw this because they asked his wife what they had. Have you seen it, John?
No.
It's new to me.
Yeah, so they asked his wife if she had seen anything suspicious beforehand, and she responded, yes, there have been some death threats. I don't know the details. His wife, Paulette Thompson, told the network after her husband was shot in New York City Wednesday morning. I just know he said that there are some people who have been threatening him. She believed, this is a quote, she believed the threats had to do with a lack of coverage, ostensibly referring to United HealthCare. So that's kind of blocked out there, but she said like lack of coverage or something is what she said.
Well,
so
really quick, TJ, I'm sorry to cut you off. Don't forget the same day this happened, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield announces that they're going to limit the amount of anesthesia that anesthesiologists can give patients in surgery. They're going to cut back the amount of time that they're going to cover. Like, are you freaking
they went back
kidding
on
me?
that.
They did.
Yes.
They
Today,
announced
like
that
an
they
hour
aren't
or
doing
two ago.
that now.
Yep.
There is
Like
a
2 hours
God of
ago.
some
Yep.
sort. I mean, maybe a cruel one, but there's a God. I mean, Jesus.
There is a God, Tim. His name is Colton Wesson, and so this is. There are so many places to take this, and
God,
I in our left wing creator group chat, someone brought up. I forget who said it. Was it Destructo Hugo?
Yeah.
One of our friends of the show said that this was very similar to the submarine incident, and also the Orca whales attacking the yachts, and like how the internet has rejoiced.
Yes.
And this one more than any of the others. Like I remember with the submarine, there was a lot of like fucking pearl clutching that happened. I have not seen much pearl clutching. I have seen mostly and I am in the bubble of the internet that like you would see more of the animosity towards this guy, but like it has been nearly universal. And I agree with you, Tim. Like I myself am a pacifist. I believe in nonviolence. I believe that not just because of my moral values, but because I've done research and I've seen that when it comes to revolution, nonviolence is the more effective way to do it, because violence, while it can be effective at accomplishing short-term goals, is not very effective at getting people on your side. Like systemic violence is very effective at getting.
Doesn't seem that way today, John.
But if you don't have the system to continue to perpetuate that violence, it doesn't last very long.
Caveat. If there's no billion-dollar propaganda machine to justify it,
exactly. The lone wolf is gonna lose that most of the time. But the thing is, there is a desire for it. Like there is so many people have been harmed by the actions of this man and what he represents.
Yeah.
So to their core, healthcare debt is the number one cause of bankruptcy in this country. I've been trying to research and find like, hey, how many like deaths is like denied health insurance coverage like responsible for? We don't fucking know. There's no public data on this. The last things I saw were from like when we were originally pushing for Obamacare, and some reports came out that like 40,000 people died because they weren't insured every year. But like, I haven't seen any actual data or evidence to show how many people die because of they were denied a claim, or they weren't able to get healthcare, or their coverage or their healthcare was delayed because they couldn't get coverage. This is a level of death and suffering that the greatest terrorist you ever heard of could only pray to accomplish one day. It is an immensity of human suffering that we're seeing outpour over this. And as you said, you hate it. Everyone hates this. Even as you said, like with your earlier in the show, you talked about this acquaintance that you have who is a super MAGA, a bigoted person. Even they were like, yeah, no, this is kind of ridiculous, because any way you look at it, it's more expensive. We don't have great healthcare. Anyone who's ever been like trying to find a doctor that matches their insurance has just gone through that fucking customer service hellscape.
Oh my God,
sucks. Everyone hates it.
It's horrible.
And I want to circle back to the morality of killing this guy, because it is a very interesting question. But I do also have to say the Democrats, I don't know how much more of a clear signal you can get than your fucking centrist, I will veto universal health care, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris getting their fucking asses kicked by Donald Trump Joe Rogan fucking being like, I'm going to support Bernie in 2020, but I'm going to support Trump in 2024. And this just outpouring of support for this cold-blooded assassination. I don't know how much more of a clear message the Democratic Party needs to hear of, hey, maybe we bottle up this energy and direct it at the people responsible. And that's not to say support going out and killing people, but to be like, hey, let's dismantle the private healthcare system. Let's replace it with something that works for the people. It is such an easy goddamn win, electorally, rhetorically, politically, power-wise, so much. And they just won't do it. It is so infuriating. And it really, TJ, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah. Well, I wrote down a whole bunch of things before the show started, and one of them was about this very thing because not just the Democrats, but the Republicans too. Because what's really bothered me is that this outpouring of support for this national hero, remember the 4th of December, is that we have an entire political party that has been telling us my entire life that universal health care is bad. This is something that we actually want private health care. We don't even want Obamacare, this tepid thing trying to fix it. We support. Tepid. Yeah. And I've been told that people love private health care insurance. I know people who have said it, and they said, well, we don't really want the government getting involved. And everyone's happy about this. Which one fucking is it? Like, which one, Republicans? Like that's what I get, like the being upset with the Democrats and everything, because we push for this, but the right wingers that I see, they're like, oh, isn't this funny? Well, what's the problem, you guys? This is the exact system you want. You want the private healthcare to make money off of this, but you're acting like this is all cool and everything. Also, I was John mentioned that. All right. So I'm not happy when a human being dies. I'm not a monster, folks. I'm not putting it that way. But I am saying this, that you ever know someone who really loves animals? There's someone who's just really in love with animals. They talk about it all the time. You ever notice they don't seem to care much about people? There seems to be like a limited amount of love you can have in your heart. And so if you put too much of it on animals, you're going to be a little bit misanthropic. There's only so much love I can put out for serial killers, which is what I consider this guy. I consider him someone who has killed thousands of people to put an extra $1 in his pocket. And not only is United HealthCare denying health insurance claims for people, I forget the name of the department. Every insurance company has a department that's meant to check over claims at the end of every year and go back and deny them after the fact to take the money back from those folks. It's even worse than that. So last year, while this guy was still CEO, United HealthCare was sued because they are using an AI system to automatically deny people their healthcare benefits. And
wait, TJ, before you say, because Tim, have you heard about this?
I don't think I have.
Tim, I want you to guess the percentage of claims that this AI software erroneously denies.
Oh, I don't know. 2 out of 10, 30%, something like that.
Oh, good guess, Tim.
Good guess. That seems like a reasonable. That seems like a reasonable. Like, oh my god, it would be so awful if they did a full 30% of claims.
Even that's high.
That's high. You're right, Tim. Anyway, TJ, continue.
Let's go. All right, let's fucking go. All right. So this AI system was put in place. So they used it on elderly people. That they was almost exclusively used on elderly people who would file these claims, and the AI would review it and either approve or deny it. So the families of 2 now deceased former beneficiaries of United Health have filed a lawsuit against the healthcare giant, alleging it knowingly used a faulty artificial intelligence algorithm to deny elderly patients coverage for extended care deemed necessary by their doctors. The lawsuit filed Tuesday in federal court in Minnesota, this is last year, United Health illegally denied elderly patients care. Elderly patients care owed to them under Medicare Advantage plans by developing an AI model known by the company to have a 90% error rate, overriding determinations made by the patient's physicians, and the expenses were medically necessary. Yeah, so if you guys didn't understand what I was saying there, they would deny the claims. The claim would be challenged. 9 out of 10 times the patient won the challenge just because the AI, they didn't give a fuck. And this guy oversaw that. He implemented that. The 30, I saw the chart with different insurance companies. United Health had like a 30% rejection rate for their patients. Yeah, like this guy killed people for a living. That's what he did. All right. And so yeah, I'm not a fan of human beings dying. Don't feel a lot of sympathy for this guy, which is why there's the outpouring of support for this dude is so strong. And I got to say, I don't know if you guys saw that there's a $10,000 bounty on this guy. What a fucking insultingly low number. You think, would you turn this guy in for 10K? Would anyone listening? How badly
Dude,
would you
that's an entire dedeductible for some people. So.
But it's like what you'll be mad at this guy? You think also all right. Stepping out of the morality part, where if we're going to assume that all human life has equal value as creatures, if we're going to talk into the social utility part, like the reason that we lock people up who commit murders is that these people are a dangerous society. Like we don't want, if you're going to kill one person, you might kill another one. Do I think this guy is going to kill me? I don't think he's going to kill you. I don't think he's going to kill. It's like, I think if he's going to go through the trouble of writing delay, deny, depose, he's a very particular type of killer. I don't fit that profile. And anyone who does, I don't feel a lot of, they can hire security. That's how I feel about it. So go ahead, Tim. Sorry. We're going to say.
No, you're good. All I was going to say was that, it's interesting that you bring this up. And I think it's a point worth exploring because James Cone writes in Black Theology and Black Power. He makes this point of like, why, and he's writing from a context of like, there's blatant like police violence being used in mass towards Black people when they're fighting back and they're getting arrested. Like he's in like this, like it's like the throes of the early civil rights movement. And he says, why is it when the state uses violence, it's sanctioned, but then when people use violence to get the boot off of their neck, suddenly they're violent, they're criminals, etc. And I think what happens is, and this is how effective propaganda can be, because we don't see the countless lives that these companies have ended because of denied claims or because they bankrupted patients beyond the point of being able to access medicine, right? So we don't think about it as a tragedy, but when this person is shot, which by the way, I will say is definitely a tragedy, we all of a sudden have like a very different reaction. Like, oh my God, I can't believe that. But then every day we go on with our day, not thinking about the thousands, however many people are being denied healthcare coverage for the sake of bottom line corporate profit, which is just as abhorrent and should shock us, right, into a moment of sobriety where like we should all as a country be like, wait, if people are dying because these systems are set up to extract the most amount of money out of people with the least amount of quality care, that has to be reworked. Because people, and look, we can tie this back to the pro-life mantra, right? Do people have a right to life or not? Do they have the right to life, all people or not? And so I'm with you all the way on this. I think it's a very interesting, not just thought experiment because it has real world consequences, but it kind of pulls the curtains back behind how we think about what's appropriate and what isn't, right? For a lot of people, it's appropriate for healthcare companies to deny claims. That's no big deal. It's not appropriate for someone to be shot in the street. It's like, well, why is one okay and the other isn't?
Mm-hmm. Tim, something that I actually haven't said this publicly yet, but I guess I'm saying it now, that if you're going to clutch your pearls over this guy dying and you're like, oh, it's terrible to kill someone. Okay. I can agree with that. I agree with you. Like, I morally agree. Murder is wrong in every situation, with the exception of self-defense, right?
Sure.
Did you cheer when Osama bin Laden was killed?
Right.
Because if you were happy when Osama bin Laden was killed, recognize that this man killed thousands more people than Osama bin Laden ever did in his entire life for a reason which is far worse than the reasoning behind what Osama bin Laden did. He did it just for money. He just killed thousands and thousands and thousands of people for money, for shareholder value. That is it. These healthcare companies aren't providing a service. They aren't trying to accomplish a goal. They aren't trying to help the world in any way, shape, or form. Their entire raison d'etre is to just make money.
Right.
And that's why they do what they do. And if you are going to sit there and say, if you're going to bite the bullet and say murder's always wrong, I'm going to agree with you. But if you're going to say it's okay to cheer on the killing of Osama bin Laden or any other bad guy, fucking Hitler, fucking whoever, okay, Hitler has a higher body count. My bad on that one. But most bad guys in history.
Good retraction there, buddy.
Yeah.
You're
not going. But you're going to tell me that I shouldn't find any joy in this monster being killed. Like it's a guilty pleasure for me. I do have joy. I also think it's wrong.
It's just a pleasure.
I'm a
for me.
multifaceted individual. I'm capable of being a hypocrite. But
I just don't think though. Like I understand what you're saying on like the like the guilty pleasure piece, but it just doesn't solve anything. Like I don't think again, like pragmatically, this doesn't fix the problem. It doesn't fix any problem. And we know this because the shareholders metaphorically walked over this guy's dead body to keep the system going, right? Like killing a CEO, they are expendable. He has a successor probably named by now, if not by tomorrow, and the system will continue on. That doesn't get the change done that we want to see done.
I mean, the Blue Cross Blue Shield did reverse their I
actually can't believe they did
the
that,
next
TJ.
day.
That was a mistake.
Now it could be an accident, that could be a coincidence, but I don't know. Like the next fucking day, it seems kind of funny.
My
AJ,
personal
this guy's
opinion,
still out there, and there's a lot more insurance companies.
There are a lot more CEOs out there.
My personal opinion is that I think it was the Anesthesiologists Association that put the pressure on to get them to reverse course, probably more than a murder. But that's just my
So first, I want to throw out to any conservatives listening out there. John said "raison d'être." That is French for reason for being. Just so you guys know.
Thank you. That helps me. I didn't know that. Thank you. I'm like, this guy's speaking in tongues. Shabala habala. He's slaying the spirit.
I was dunking on conservatives. Friendly fire here on this show. But so, all right. I wanted to address a comment here. Where was it? She was from Emile. She wrote. Emmeline, she says, I mean, you guys come back to the gunpowder plot connection. I'm gonna cry if you guys catfished me. So what she's talking about is the thumbnail. So the thumbnail I made for this episode, it showed a picture of Brian, what's his name, and the caption said, remember the 4th of December. I wasn't planning on actually talking about the gunpowder plot, but since you asked, I guess I should say, but that the remember the 4th of December is a reference to a poem about the gunpowder plot in England with Guy Fawkes. And it's remember the 5th of November, gunpowder treason and plot. I can think of no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. And it's talking about a man named Guy Fawkes. Now, if you've seen V for Vendetta, the mask that guy wears, and you'll see people wear it like anonymous, they wear that mask. That is a Guy Fawkes mask. And Guy Fawkes was a British dude who wanted to overthrow Parliament. And it's called the gunpowder plot. He took a whole bunch of barrels of gunpowder, put it underneath Parliament, and he and a few friends were going to light it, kill everyone in Parliament. And they talk about it like it's he was executed and caught and everything, but it's seen as a symbol of rebellion. Like Guy Fawkes is stand up against the man. Don't look too deep into it because Guy Fawkes wanted to install the Pope as the ruler. So trust me, not anything better. But that's what we're going to talk about there. It doesn't really have any connection to the gunpowder plot. I just thought that it was funny to make a poem out of it. And Guy Fawkes too, not someone to worship because if you check, he had an alias. The bulletproof alias he used to hide his illegal actions, John Johnson, was the alias that Guy Fawkes taught. So yeah, not someone you really want to look up to on there. But yeah, this whole thing with what's his name? I keep forgetting his name, Brian Johnson or something. I want to say about this guy. Yeah, he. I just see the outpouring support for this, and I wonder what happens now because I think, John, what you were talking about. This is a sign the Democrats need to run on universal healthcare, something we've been saying for a long time. I don't think it would be easy, though. I don't. I think it would be a long, drawn-out fight. I think every Republican that voted against Trump will stand up against this. They won't be for it. I honestly believe, in my heart of hearts, the only way we're going to get universal healthcare in this country is if Donald Trump supports it. That's it. I think that's the only way it's going to happen. I think that if anyone not named Donald Trump puts this forward to the people, you're going to hear the same bullshit you always hear about.
I agree.
Go ahead. You agree?
I agree. Think about Make America Healthy Again. I'm like,
oh, God,
I remember when Michelle Obama had a whole fucking initiative on this shit, and Glenn Beck and his team was mocking her. Wait, all of a sudden we care about health? I'm sorry. Have you guys been around? People have been. I watched Food Inc. 10 years ago when I realized everything is rearranged corn syrup in our grocery aisles. We need to fix that. So I completely agree. And again, that's what makes me so aggravated. Wait a second, guys. You want RFK, the anti-vaccine nut job, to make America healthy again? Now you care about what's in school lunches, yet you also want to defund the Department of Education? You can't have it both ways. You can't argue about defunding schools and how groomers are in schools and our kids are being indoctrinated and then go, oh my God, they're eating Doritos. Yeah, no shit. If they had the right funding, we could fix this. It's the same thing, right? They're opportunists. They're opportunists because you're right. tomorrow if Trump was like, the healthcare system is predatory.
Yep.
It is not for the working person, and we need to we got to drain the swamp. Oh, Charlie Kirk tomorrow. Amen. Yeah, no, Trump's totally right. We got to get rid of these. Dude, think about Big Pharma. Same thing, right? All of a sudden, the same people who used to love Big Pharma and big medicine, who used to love, corporate profits. Guys, we need more free market solutions, right? Oh, Big Pharma, they're pushing the vaccine just for profit. Just for profit. Like, wait, guys, the whiplash. I can't keep up. Like, what are we doing here? So I completely agree with you, which again should just drive us batshit crazy. I did want to ask you a quick question about this, because I was a Republican for most of my life, period. I am, and I don't know if this is unjustified or not. You guys probably know more about this than I do, but I'm pissed at Democrats a ton for not getting affordable health care done. And I feel like they could have over and over again. And I'm freaking pissed. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's been Republicans the whole time. But I don't know. Like, what the hell, guys? Don't tell me you want affordable health care. And here we are. We still can't fucking get it. Dude, since Clinton, this has been talked about in Democratic parties. We need more affordable health care. It's worse than ever.
Well, John, before you hop in on this, I know you want to, but Tim is right. Like, so you guys know why Obamacare is called Obamacare. It's not just because of the Obamacare. It was when healthcare initiative was first brought out. It was Hillary Clinton back when she was first lady, back in like 1994 or something. And I remember this. I remember it was all over the place, and she was on the news saying how she wanted to give people like these healthcare cards across the nation. Everyone got to use them and everything. And they called it Hillary Care. They derisively referred to it as Hillary Care, and the Republicans crushed it. Like the media and the Republican establishment just burned it into the ground, so much so that people still think socialized medicine is some sort of horrible thing. It was very effective. And they tried the same thing with Obamacare. And it ended up not really working. People kind of liked it. It's kind of soured now because it's needlessly complex and elaborate. It's not even universal health care, but that's what we should be going for. But John will probably mention this, but the Democrats could and couldn't implement universal health care because they had a supermajority for like 9 minutes back in 2009 or something. But not all 60 Democrats were for it. You always have 2 or 3 conservative Democrats that aren't for it. But they also could have if they would have gotten rid of the filibuster, which they could have, and they did not. And so, John, go ahead. What are you going to say about it?
Yeah, no, Tim, there's to go off on a tangent for a minute here. What you just said reminded me of if you know who Edgar Allan Poe is. There's very intense fans of Edgar Allan Poe, and there's this. I watched like a video of this recently. If you go to like an Edgar Allan Poe convention and you bring up the orangutan in Murders of Rue Morgue, you will start a fight. Everyone will just break out in fucking fisticuffs. It's actually like banned topic of discussion because of like it's a very racial thing in the story. Okay. I'm not going to go into it, but that's what you just did. You were just like, guys, I don't know if you guys talk about this much over on the left, but the Democrats really could have done universal health care, couldn't they? And I was just like, yeah, Tim. Yeah, they really fucking could have. Yeah, no, and that is a constant fight. You'll have someone being like, oh, well, they could have done it. And then you'll have someone else being like, oh, no, actually, they couldn't. They didn't really have the votes. But, oh, no, they could have broken the filibuster. And you just have this whole thing. But, yeah, no, you're right. It is. And this is the fucking problem with the Democrats is that they claim to stand for something, but they routinely fail to deliver. Yeah. And they don't stand by their principles. We elected someone in 2020 who said they would veto universal health care in Joe Biden. It's insane. And this is a winning electoral issue. Americans largely support universal health care when you explain it to them in terms that aren't already propagandized. Right. And it's an easy win. And if you had a charismatic leader who fucking pushed for this, you could get it. And I know that we had that with Obama, but like the Democratic Party just was not set up to do it. You can do it. And look at the fucking outpouring of support for this assassin. Like, people hate the healthcare system more than most things. Yeah. Like, it is one of the most hated, besides like Congress itself. Like, and it's, yeah, you're right. If someone could accomplish this, they'd go down in history. But like the forces that be stop that from happening because the establishment consolidates power and pushes down people like Bernie Sanders who fight for these things. Yeah. And people always go, oh, well, Bernie Sanders can't win an election. No, he can't win a primary because the fucking establishment them stop him. He would dominate the general. He would fucking dick slap Donald Trump across the face, because he not only does he stand for the same populist working class rhetoric that Donald Trump claims to, but he actually supports the policies that would substantially improve the lives of the working class. And he can prove that. And that's the whole thing that it comes down to, like you were talking earlier. They need to weaponize this animosity. We were talking earlier about whether it's religion, whether it's whatever. It doesn't really matter. But the feeling, the emotion, the raw pain is there. And it needs to be acknowledged. It needs to be funneled. And it needs to be organized. And right now, the Democrats want diddly shit to do with that. But someone's going to do it. Eventually, we're going to have universal health care in this country.
Yeah.
And God damn it, will it piss me off if the Republicans do it. Let me tell you that.
I wouldn't be surprised one bit. And the reason is, the reason I specifically said Donald Trump, not only because he does, command this cult-like personality where people just follow him, whether it makes sense or not, but because the Democrats are just like every other politician, that they're beholden to donors, and healthcare industry is a major donor. And I will tell you, yes, all your favorite Democrats, Uncle Tim Waltz, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Uncle Tim Waltz had a statement about this where he came out and he wrote, "This is horrifying news and a terrible loss for the business and healthcare community in Minnesota. Minnesota is sending our prayers to Brian's family and the United Healthcare team." Now, read the fucking room, Tim. Okay, listen, that's all I got to say here. Now, listen, you might personally feel this way. The Minnesota business community has lost an important member. Tim Waltz didn't have to say a word. You didn't have to say a fucking word about this, because this is not like the mood of the people is not, crocodile tears for universal health care losing their CEO, making $10 million a year to kill people. Sorry, not someone an outpouring of sympathy is going to bring you a lot of political capital for. And so, this is the problem, is that the Democrats are beholden to these donors. They are beholden to these industries. Yep. And what benefit is it of that? Because, look, you're a politician. Your number one job is not to serve the people. Your number one job is to get reelected. That's your number one concern, at least, is to get reelected. And getting reelected requires donations from rich people, because poor people, middle-class people don't have the money to donate to you. So your bread and butter is going to come from the rich. It's going to come from giant industries like healthcare, like the largest healthcare insurance provider in the country. And even old Tim Waltz is going to bend the knee to stuff like this.
Yep.
And the RFK thing, man, I've been shouting into the void about this RFK thing, because it is the most obvious example. Once again, you can't hypocrisy burn conservatives. It doesn't work. But
no, it doesn't work. They love it. They're like, and
yeah, exactly.
And what?
Exactly. Exactly. When you have imagine how fun life would be with no principles. Just imagine how much fun you could have doing that. In fact, and you can't even say that we're saying that just because on the other side, because we were on the other side. At least Tim and I, we were conservatives at once. And then when our principles conflicted with reality, we had to change our minds. Right. But other conservatives don't do that. They just stick with it. But I remember them just tearing their clothes and being in sackcloth and ashes whenever Michelle Obama's like, maybe we shouldn't feed our kids pig slop for lunch every day. Maybe we shouldn't have, corn syrup in everything we eat, and, giving them sodas 3 times a day. Just make the food a little bit healthier. Conservatives like, this is the nanny state. This is big.
I grew up on talk radio.
Me too.
Sean Hannity. McDonald's shouldn't be forced to disclose the amount of calories on their menu. This is the nanny state. What? They don't trust you that you can't say no to a cheeseburger. That's ridiculous. Flash forward now. Oh my God, the food industry is so toxic, full of sugar and seed oil. We have to destroy that industry because it's killing our kids. It's like, yeah. Where have you guys been?
It's like, I also like when they have really dumb takes. I saw this tweet that showed RFK has announced that a tweet saying he's doing this. I don't know if he's actually announced it, but it shows how conservatives are misinformed about a lot of things. About
TJ, I'm rubbing off on you, buddy. I'm rubbing off on you. You're going to reconvert. It's only a matter of time.
Are sadly misinformed about the very nature of reality. But they were saying that RFK is going to say that Coca-Cola has to use cane sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup. It's like, people, it doesn't fucking matter. Your body, it's the same thing. Yes, look, fructose, glucose, sucrose, your body doesn't know the difference. It's just sugar. Now, unless the only way that this has some benefit if RFK says that, well, you got to use, pure cane sugar and not high fructose corn syrup, is that it's going to cripple admittedly, I will be with RFK on this, the absurd subsidies we give to corn in the country.
Yeah.
And that's why we have so much bullshit like sweets and stuff, and everything's full of high fructose corn syrup. Like high fructose corn syrup is not any worse for you than regular sugar. It's just that we put it in everything because we need to do something with all this goddamn fucking corn that the government's paying for. So if he wants to do that and disrupt the free market, I'm all for it. But I don't think it's just a messaging to the idiots.
And to be clear, I'm not a contrarian just for contrarian's sake. Like I will high five anyone who wants to reduce the amount of sugar in our food and wants to make our food healthy. Like I'm all about giving kids access to healthy lunches. The problem is that this, what they're calling is the Maha movement, comes with anti-vax rhetoric, anti-science. Dude, there's a contributor named Alex Clark. I think she's like 28 years old. Okay, she had a person on the show who's like, mammograms are bad for you.
I saw that.
Mammograms actually cause cancer. I'm like, whoa. Again, and she's on her whole thing is the health kick. Health. Raw milk is good for you. Yada. I'm like, guys, why do we have to bring the anti-intellectual, anti-science bullshit along with things that I could high five on? I could absolutely high five on so many of those healthy initiatives. But raw milk, what? Like we pasteurize it for a reason. Vaccines, literally, we can look at the data and see when vaccines came into existence, how many diseases were eradicated because of fucking vaccines. That's what I think scares me the most is like there is some good to it for sure, but it comes with so much baggage. And also, RFK he's less qualified than Dr. Oz, and that's saying something. He should have no business running any kind of health department, period. That's not his skill set at all. So much for meritocracy, am I right?
I agree.
TJ, I see you writing things down here, but I know Tim has a hard out at 8:30 here, so we're going to
wrap the last word, TJ. You go ahead.
This is for the outro. What I wrote down for the outro.
So I'm gonna close this out, and then I'm gonna throw to you, Tim. You're gonna tell people where they can find you, and then TJ will wrap it up. So,
well, first off, thank you for hosting me. I mean, I had a lot of fun. I would do this anytime. I mean, TJ,
perfect.
I'll give you my cell phone number, bro.
Let's do it.
Talk.
Yeah, let's do it.
John's old news in my book. We'll start our own group chat without John.
Protestant supremacy is what I always say. Protestant supremacy on this show.
We Catholics know we're actually superior. We're not bothered by the rumblings of the sheep.
You and your Pope heresy, But for real, I mean, I appreciate you guys hosting me. Yeah, people can follow our work.
Wait, not yet.
You're not the first guest to do this. It's a whole thing. So I'm going to throw to you. You'll see. All right, guys, thank you. You made it to the end of this episode where we were probably either talking about religion or killing people. And if you want to hear more talk about religion and maybe a little bit about killing people, I don't know, Tim, where can people find your show?
Well, they can find us anywhere that the New Evangelicals can be found on podcasts, TikTok, Instagram, wherever. So at the New Evangelicals.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tim. Folks, thank you so much for watching the show. We only covered 2 topics, so whatever you watch today is going to be on 1 or 2 things. We learned that 1, Christian nationalism is bad, and 2, health insurance does not cover lead allergies. So good to see you guys. We'll catch you next time. Enjoy your week. Catch you guys later.